What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to another episode of Marlon Speaks Live. I need y'all to comment, like, subscribe to all of my content. But yeah, so I got a special one right now. This is a real topic that I have experienced. And I got a couple clips that I want to share with y'all right now. Got Cool Cola, so I'm gonna add the link to that video. And I got the anti-HR channel, and it's a channel I subscribe to. I love her content as well. So I'm gonna give y'all a black man's perspective along with a black woman's perspective on this topic. Just so y'all know I'm not being biased, because I love my sisters. I love my goddesses. I'm not one of them guys that's gonna bash my sisters. I'm never gonna do that. But this is something I have experienced on the job, and I just want to share my firsthand experience with this topic. So yeah, first I got Cool Colas, and this is actually his latest video on his channel. I only watched like 30 seconds of it, but I already know he about to go in. So yeah.
Things that I noticed that people spoke about a lot and were one of the biggest complaints that I got was that they were experiencing a lot of the stuff that I talked about at the hands of black women. And so a lot of people were requesting for me to do a video where I spoke about how black women are used against black men in the workplace. And now I want to dive all into that. I'm your host, Cool Colas, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. So let's get into it. Before we dive deep into this topic, I have to remind you that in any area of activity that we discuss, there is a hierarchy that is involved. There's a certain set of people and group of people who control what happens in these areas of activity. And for those of you all who follow my channel, you understand.
That's very important. That's a very important disclaimer. So that's why we can never, on the job, we can never take it personal, with our sisters, because usually they're just workers. But we can take it personal, because you know what? Let's just let Cool Colas take us there, and then I'm going to add my commentary afterward. My screen keep freezing up. Every time I pause it, my screen frees up.
Who control what happens in these areas of activity. And for those of you all who follow my channel, you understand that I talk about these types of deals from the pro-black perspective. With that, I understand that these areas of activity that all humans exist in and thrive in is ruled by white supremacy. So you must keep that in mind when we are having this conversation about black women and what they do to black men in the workplace. And again, this topic does not apply to all black women. And I certainly don't want the all police coming in here and whining about me trying to put every black woman into a box. It's always all. That's not what's going on here. And I will even say too that I've had some black female coworkers who have been nothing but pleasant and a joy to work with, and I've actually enjoyed being around them. However, regardless of all that, I've had black female coworkers who have been an absolute nightmare and a terror to work with and have caused me a lot of stress, strife, and issues while I was on the job. With that said, it's also important to remember that these systemic attacks that go on in the workplace towards black men are started by the dominant society. And often they get their special shea butter sambas to do their bidding. So I need to be clear about something. Whenever we talk about black women and those who are unbearable to work with in the workplace. There's a difference between a black woman and a shea butter samba. And most of the time, what y'all are dealing with are shea butter sambas because there is a distinct difference in the behavior. With that said, we can now get into 3 different ways that black women are used against black men in the workplace. The first way that they are used against black men in the workplace is by what I would call the pseudo-parenthood agenda. Now let's talk about what this is and what it looks like. So with the pseudo-parenthood agenda, usually you have a black woman who is between the ages of probably about 45 to 70. And they usually are the type to be entering what I call the shea butter mama phase, or they're already a shea butter mama. These are individuals that raise the actual shea butter sambas that a lot of y'all be complaining about. And they raise them to be just like them. You know, they're always very bitter, they're very hateful, they have an attitude problem, they're very disrespectful, and then they try to coat and coax all of that into this thing of having a strong personality. These types will usually talk to you like they are one of your kids. They'll reprimand you, they'll talk to you crazy, they'll undermine the things that you say and that you do. They often will tell you to stop being so loud and to silence your voice. And that's when I got a lot is you'll get some of these older mammies who will kind of get around and they'll tell you your voice is loud, not so loud. They'll try to shush you and all this other stuff like you're a child who's just being too noisy. The other thing that they like to do is they like to talk down to you. They like to reprimand you publicly. And they like to make jokes at your expense. And they also expect you to laugh along with it because it's supposed to be lighthearted, although the dig that they make is pretty heavy. And sometimes they'll even do really like weird shit in order to try to make you look bad in front of other people. Their behavior shows up around white coworkers where this black man is subtly framed as immature, emotional, incompetent, and all of these other things, while she positions herself as someone who is reasonable and responsible. So that's why she will a lot of times point to you being loud or trying to make it seem like you're unprofessional or someone who just needs correction. Because when they do this to you, they are giving the precedent that it's okay for them to do that as well too. So because Shaquita was treating you like shit, so will, I guess I can't say Shaquita because she kind of old. Lena May is treating you like shit, so can everybody else in the office as well too. Also too, with the pseudo parent, sometimes what they try to do is not necessarily directly target you, but they'll try to make uncomfortable conversations that are really just projections that involve you. They'll try to make uncomfortable conversations that are really just projections that involve you in order to make you feel uncomfortable or like you have to respond to what they're saying or doing. And sometimes it puts you in a bad position because if you don't respond, it almost feels like you're accepting that label and that it's cool for people to talk trash about you because you are a black man. So I'll give you an example of that. I used to have this coworker when I was working in a civil rights job of mine. And
let me add to what Cool Cola said. So my experience with women like that on the job, or really anybody, you have to nip it in the bud. And I don't care, especially with black women, my experience when they're my superiors especially, I don't have a problem with black women who are not my superior because I work at a union job. And so if you're my peer or if you're on the same level, we don't get into none of that. You know, we usually have very, very good interaction, but it's always a supervisor, a black female supervisor that I've always had issues with. Actually, black male supervisors too, any black supervisor. So you have to let them know, just like the racist white or any white supervisor, any white person, anybody who's playing with you. I mean, I just how I always addressed it. I let them know first thing, you gotta set the tone, because if you let anybody run you over, they gonna run you over. They gonna treat you how you let them treat you. So it's not even them, it's you. No matter what type of energy they have, you have all the power to accept whatever energy they trying to throw at you. So if you accept it, that's your problem. So yeah, let me let Colas finish.
And we were out eating somewhere, and I don't know how we got on the subject of this, but she was talking about, this is the black female coworker I'm talking about. She was talking about how she was doing a road trip with her family, and she and then one of her sisters had to do all of the driving, and she was going from one state to another that was like, I guess 7 hours away or whatever. When she was telling the story, she made a comment. She said something like, we had to drive that whole way ourselves there and back because, with black men, they don't like to get in the front seat and they don't like to drive.
What?
They don't like to drive long distances like that.
What kind of
and
black
so when she
man
said that, it was, first of all, odd as fuck. I don't know what.
Right, where'd that come from? Yeah. See, this what they be trying to do. They be trying to set traps. And this guy, he's pretty smart, and it seemed to me the kind of jobs he had probably don't have no union. So when you don't have no union on your job, you really got to be careful. You got to tread lightly, because my brother used to work in an office setting with no union, and he had to be very calculated because there was a lot of traps that he said that the black women that worked in that office would try to set for him. So I get where he coming from.
Dude she was dealing with, but I know that when she said that, because she said it around our white coworkers, it put me in a bad position because I was the only black man there, and I was sitting there. So it was either I respond to it and say that's not true, and then it becomes an argument and a debate, or I validate what she's saying, and then it allows a lot of these white coworkers to start prying and fishing at the way that black people operate, so they can kind of.
And that's what I'm saying. That's a trap. So yeah, in a setting like that with no union to back you, you on your own, you outnumbered, you the only black male in the vicinity. So apparently she's, jabbing at you. Yeah, man. I just thank God I always had a union, man. Cause, these situations is what makes it hard for black people, but in particular black men on the job, because a black woman would throw a black man under the fucking bus. Not all of them, like you said, these shea butter ones, these different type of sisters. Cause every one of just skin color don't mean kin, skin color. Like just because we skin don't mean we kin. So,
justify the way that they behave with me. So that's kind of like what it did, was it put me in a bad position. So although it appeared like she was slighting the black men in her life, she was really kind of putting the onus on me to deal with the chaos that she just brought into the conversation while we were having lunch. And I want to be clear about something as well too, and something that I noticed with this particular agenda specifically. I noticed that this is not something that just takes place in these office spaces or at your job, but they also take place at a lot of networking events and things like that. There's a lot of times where, they know exactly who to get, who to invite. Some of these types of things, they know who to get to be that individual to talk to you real crazy and to treat you a certain way. And I'll give you an example of something that I kind of experienced with that in particular. So I had this training that I did when I was in the civil rights field, and there was a sister who was there at the training with me. She was also taking the, training course, and this sister had to be about somewhere around 45, and she either was like in her early or mid 40s. It's hard to tell, but she had a little bit of gray in her hair and all this other stuff. But anyway, so after we were done with the training session for the day, I had walked up to one of the trainers and I had thanked them for answering the questions that I had, because these were things that I was wondering while doing my job, and this gave me a lot of clarity. And so this was somewhat of a sidebar conversation. Like it was public because there were other people there, but we kind of were off to the side. So I guess she had been maybe listening to the conversation, and she walks up while there's other people who are starting to kind of walk around that area. And then she comes up to me, puts her hand on my shoulder and says, "You need to stop apologizing. I mean, all you're doing is apologizing, giving context and framing things before you say them. Just say them." And she was sitting there laughing. And I'm like, was that necessary? Like, did you really feel like that was necessary? Because she was trying to make a joke.
I can't stand it. Well, I just sit there and stare at when anybody do me like that. But it's always black women that do me like that when I'm talking. You know, I'm a man's man. I sometimes I think it's me. You know, sometimes I try to take ownership of it when I go through it. But that's why this type of content is so important to me, just so I can know there's somebody from a totally different dynamic in a totally different space than me going through the same thing, just to let me know I ain't crazy. So yeah, let my man finish, man.
You know, from my expense. And it was so uncomfortable and awkward. It was even to the point where the damn trainer was like, I mean, people communicate differently. Like, so even she was like, okay. So yeah, so they like to do little shit like that. This was a training that lasted a few days or so. So, you know, when I saw her, I tried to kind of stay clear of her for that time being, because I really wasn't trying to have too many interactions, you know, with her and whatnot, because something about her whole vibe just in general just didn't really rub me the right way.
Right.
Not even just in that interaction, but just in general, the way she would just say stuff and respond to stuff. I was like, I'm gonna steer clear from her, because she got a lot of shea butter in that head. Right. The thing here is that the pseudo parents love to infantilize that black man, because again, it gives those in the dominant society clearance to do the same things. And even times they will get on code with a lot of these mammies, and they'll try to get them to do and say certain stuff in order to try to break the ice so that they can be themselves and they can do certain things. So this next one that I'm going to speak about is not too much different than the first one, but I'm going to kind of include it with that first one because it's so similar. There's some key differences, but again, the way that it flows has a similar twang. The next type of way that a black woman is used against a black man is by what I call the guard dog agenda. Now, what is the guard dog agenda? This is when a black woman is typically around her 20s, like between the age of 20 and 45. And usually there's some hood rat who's at the front desk, or is like an intake person, or there's somebody who's supposed to be the greeter of people. Sometimes these individuals already show up with an attitude the minute they walk through the door, and sometimes their attitudes are selective. So it really just depends on who they're interacting with. These are usually these entry level mammies, and they speak to you real crazy, you know, they use this casual, disrespectful tone. They try to embarrass you publicly. They talk to you like, you know, you're their younger brother and shit. So they kind of have like that type of vibe. Things that I noticed about them is that although they tend to speak to you in that manner, they tend not to speak to their white managers in the way that they speak to you. So a lot of times, you know, the dominant society knows exactly what they're doing. They handpick and select these types of individuals. They can feel and even see the sassiness off of these damn shea butter sandals. And they see how confrontational they are as a person. And they put them on their front lines. And a lot of times they're thinking like, we can use her, because as soon as we hire somebody who's a black man in here and they meet our quota and whatever the hell, you know, we can get them in there trying to embarrass him, and then that gives us clearance to do the same thing, because now it's not really a racist thing. I remember a while ago, I was working at this tax software company as a
same thing they do with the police. I don't know if y'all noticed the police, the black police, man. That's really why a lot of police departments hire a lot of black police officers. That's why it fit their, motive to boom. Like that case in Memphis. Couldn't say that was racist, right? When they there implementing the same systems that all police created. So, but on the surface, just like with ICE, they got a lot of different shades of the ICE agents out there. They put them frontline for a reason too, to go so they can say, no, it ain't racist. Yeah, man, I deal with that on my job. I've been dealing with that guard dog example that he just said since I've been working for GM. They hire it's usually young black women, and they come in there with that sassiness and they try to cut every black man's throat. That's literally how I work. Yeah, let me let Colas finish.
Greeting people when they came in. And she would also sometimes come to some of the different employees and let them know when they had a client who was going to come in and had been scheduled to take that client or whatever. So I come in, and this was like my second day on the job and whatnot. And she comes up to me, and there's a bunch of coworkers around and whatnot. And she asked me about this packet. And she says, do you have this packet prepared? And I was like, what packet? And the reason why is because at this company, whenever you were done with a client, you had a packet that you were supposed to fill out with their information and whatnot, and then file it in the back. So again, this is my second day on the job. I hadn't been trained on all this stuff yet, but I guess she didn't know that, so she assumed that this was something that I knew. And so when I told her I didn't know what she was talking about, she said, you should, that there's no reason why you shouldn't know what that is. So she's saying this real loud, real disrespectful, real crazy, while there's a bunch of other coworkers of mine who are like around me. And I'm like, this is my second day. I literally don't know what you're talking about. And she said, well, you should. She said, so that's a you problem if you don't know this and you don't know that. And so I'm like, are you trying to embarrass me? And she said, I'm just saying that that's something that you should have already been knew. So she was like getting real disrespectful. And so with me, like the minute that she started acting like that, I was like, you know what? Let me just stay the fuck away from her for the rest of while I'm at this job. Yep. And let me tell y'all,
what I do is I pray, and I let them know I'm praying for them. I do just like this. When they start acting like that, I say, I just pray for you, and then I walk away. See, you could do that when you got a union job. You can do that. You can pray for people and just walk away. That's what I do.
After that point, I probably had maybe 2 conversations with this damn hood rat after that, and it was usually on the lines of, your client is here, and I said okay, or it was some shit like that. Because I wasn't really trying to deal with her over there looking like the damn crypt keeper in the face and having no ass. The second way that a black woman is used against the black man in the workplace
they come
is
in
by
there with
an
all
agenda that
that
I call
unresolved trauma and trying to throw it on you like you. I just be like, man, I'm not your dude. I'm not your son. I'm not your daddy. Like, I just met you. I don't even know you. And you cussing me out like in front of all these weird racist white folks that hate both of us. And I'm like, I just be like so confused. Like, man, I've been going through this my whole, and I think this my theory. I think it's against dark-skinned, melanated men. I really believe that because I be watching interaction with the light-skinned brothers. It don't usually end like, it don't go like, or the caramel colored brothers. It's always the dark brothers. And then if you meet them in real life, they usually got a dark-skinned dude. So that tell you, they think they be talking to their dude when they talking to us. So, you know what I'm saying? They like us. You know, it's the same thing, you know, when you kids, a girl like you, she treats you mean, or the same thing vice versa with a little boy treat a little girl mean. But we grown people, man. You know, it be tripped out.
Bad news deliverer. Now, what does this look like? This can be somebody of any age, but typically it's back to that 45 to 70-year-old age where this type of thing happens. And in this case, you will have this strategic move where a black woman is sent by a white manager or somebody who's white to deliver some type of criticism, some type of feedback, some type of request, some type of series of questions, or whatever the case may be. And this black woman is usually not your supervisor, but they send her in to speak to you as if she is your supervisor. And what they do is they wait for this person to say something, especially if they give you this feedback in a disrespectful way, and they wait to see if there is a conflict. When they do this, they are anticipating that the interaction is going to go left. And if it goes left,
hold on, y'all. Keep freezing up.
that the interaction is going to go left. And if it goes left, then they can sit around and say that, you know, if they go back and they say the same things to you, that this isn't racism because he was having this conflict with a black woman. So she more so.
Yep. And you know what? That's why anytime I have issues with these type of black women on the job, I tell them they're being racist. Black people can be racist towards black people. That's the thing. It's called self-hate. Just like how these little YNs shooting each other in the hood, gang shit and all that dumb shit. That's self-hate, right? This is the workplace version of self-hate. This is racism. That's what it is. Because she won't do that with no other type of person. But she only do that with you. So that's why I call it racism. I let them know that they being racist. No matter how crazy it may sound, I tell them you're being racist. Yep, I actually tell black people they are being racist. They are.
Is the messenger, the mediator, the unofficial HR rep, and sometimes she's even a spy trying to report back on the things that you say, your behavior, your attitudes, and all types of stuff. So she's more so like this kind of secret mole who is trying to either connect with you or reprimand you while also observing the things that you do. And then she can take that back to them when it's time for her to do some shit to try to either get you up out the paint or trying to serve them in whatever way that they want her to.
Right.
And also it protects the company from a both social and a legal standpoint while presenting this form of tension between two black people. So really, that black woman and that black man are both going to lose, but they're going to try to get that black man up out the paint much quicker.
Right. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm going to add this link to his video in the description. And like I said earlier, we're going to listen to the anti-HR channel. She has a black woman's perspective on this same topic. And I want y'all to check this out. Let me make sure it load up right. Okay, yeah, it's looking good. Okay.
So I'm going to just say it. Sometimes in corporate, the villain is another black woman.
If you haven't watched or seen this video, I highly recommend that you follow my good sister, Tammy, aka My Style File, and I'm putting her handle right here in this video. I highly recommend that you follow her. If you're not following her, what are you doing with your life anyway? Mm-hmm. But please follow her to watch the rest of that video. But what she said is very true. In a lot of workplaces, people who are the biggest villains are other black women. And this is very, very evident in my personal experience, as well as the experiences that many of my clients, as well as my prospective clients bring to my attention through my discovery calls. A lot of us as Black women are wreaking havoc in each other's lives in the workplace, and we have got to cut it out. I always say, often in work environments when white people want someone to perform the...
That's, what I just thought about. That's probably why a lot out of the Black people who voted, that's probably why Black men didn't vote for Kamala the most. I really believe that has something to do with it. Our personal experience with Black women on the job. With all the education that our Black women have, and the fastest growing, most educated population of America, that's a plus. But the negative is how, our women are basically adapting to that power, because it's fairly new with our women here in this country. It's fairly new that Black women are in a position of power. Like the last couple generations, this wasn't the case. Y'all, our women was working towards it. But at this point, our Black women are in a position of clear power. This administration is freaking out, and they trying to take us back to where a time Black women not only didn't have no power, but they didn't even have a voice. But yeah, it's clear. And that's the only thing that I'll say I'm like patient about with our women. You know what I'm saying? It hasn't been that long since our women been in a position of power. But let's see if my sister mentioned that as well.
Coup de grace, they want to really get you. They send somebody that looks like you to deliver the death blow. And oftentimes that somebody is another Black woman. Mm-hmm. And it should not be that way. But it often is. Too many of us are seeking the comfort of white proximity. And many of us want to be the only one. I have always felt as a Black woman when I was in a position of authority in corporate America that if it was only one of us when I got there, it sure as hell wasn't going to be only one of us when I left.
Right.
And so I never saw other Black people, especially other Black women, as competition. I always wanted to hire as many of us that I could find who were qualified to bring into my teams, because for me, if there wasn't any diversity when I got there, I felt it my responsibility. I never saw other Black people and other Black women as competition, because I never came into these situations thinking that I needed to be the only one. I often was the only one, but that was something I worked very hard to immediately change if I could. But too many times, a lot of us just want to be the only one. We want to be the star of the show. We want to feel that we're the most special, right? And so we see each other as competition, and that shouldn't be the case. Mm-mm. And we're causing a lot of pain and harm to each other in the workplace. And they do enough of that on their own without us helping. And in the recent, in recent news, I have really been bothered by this whole Amanda Seales thing. And I mean, unless you've been under a rock, you're probably aware of all these op-ed pieces that have been published in Black publications, some Black owned, some not Black owned, but presenting as Black publications, from The Root to Essence.
Yeah, so this video is from last year sometime, and so I'm sure if y'all haven't, Amanda Seales, I'm not gonna go all off into it, but do your research on Amanda Seales if you're not privy to that. But yeah, this is from a year ago. It was trending about a year ago.
To the griot, and honestly, the hit piece that Essence allowed to be written about Amanda Seales probably bothered me the most, because Essence is a magazine that touts itself as being there to uplift Black women, and historically that's what it was supposed to be about. And it's just been very disappointing that they would have allowed something like that to be written. Right. That was clearly written to attack a Black woman. And this to me is not about whether you like Amanda Seales or not, because frankly, that's part of the issue. We don't have to be liked. We do need to be respected and treated with respect and treated equally. We don't have to be liked. Being liked is not the barometer that anybody should hold a Black woman or anyone else as a standard to, especially in the workplace. It should be about whether or not you have the knowledge, skills, abilities, experience to do your job and whether you're in fact doing that job.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be about whether or not people like you. And that's one of the biggest weapons that white people use against black women is this whole idea of who likes you and who doesn't, right? They don't use that.
They don't even like themselves. That'd be the issue. All of this that we talking about is projection. It's all projection. It's all people don't like who they are, so they project it onto the next person. And then that person projects their self-hate and what they inherited from someone over them onto the next person. And they call it on the job, shit rolls downhill. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is.
Against each other, especially not against white men, right? White men don't have to be likable. I want to be held to the same standard that white men are held to. You don't have to be likable. Why do I have to be likable? Right? And it's usually women perpetuating this nonsense against other women. And in the case,
when you power with the truth though, whenever, because I always have issues with just about, I say about 75% of the people that I've worked with, it's always an issue. And it's usually centered around race. And I'm talking about the white people that I usually work around, which is about 75% of my coworkers. So yeah, they always want to bring up race. And I always say everybody's black. You originally from Africa as well. You wouldn't be here without black people. I say that. See, this is what a lot of our brothers and sisters who have positions of power, they're not verbally like taking their power. So that's how that shit end up keep rolling downhill, because at some point, I don't care what position you in, you have to stand up. Now they, like she said, they might not like you, but they gonna respect you when they know you got some type of self-pride. You know what I'm saying? When you got some type of self-pride and standards about who you are. And when you know who you are and you're not ashamed to share who you are. And on the flip side, educating them about who they are in reference to you. We gotta take our power back. Don't be feeling no kind of way on no job. Man, you make that job don't make you. Shit. Hold up, y'all.
held to. You don't have to be likable. Why do I have to be likable? Right? And it's usually women perpetuating this nonsense against other women. And in the case of Amanda Seales, I have just been really disappointed by, the number of women who've been in the comments co-signing this foolishness and not really seeing it for what it is, right? Because for me, it's not about whether or not you agree with her, whether you like her. In my opinion, she has always been a person who has spoken forcefully for the rights and liberation of Black people. And for that, I love and appreciate her. Now, is she perfect? Is she always a perfect vessel? Does she always say things in the best possible way? In my opinion, no. But she shouldn't have to. And as a person who works in the entertainment industry as she does, I do not, but she does. The question she was raising about why she was not invited to certain award shows. And at one point she said that she'd been nominated for an NAACP award, but never invited to the award ceremony. I found that shocking, right? And for people in the Black entertainment community to respond by allowing a bunch of hit pieces to be written about her in multiple online publications, I find appalling. I just find the whole thing appalling. And I really, have other ideas about why it is that this is happening at this time to her that I will keep to myself at this time. But I don't think it's accidental that at a time when Amanda Seales is being very vocal about what is going on in Gaza, that all of a sudden she's being hit with a barrage of attacks. I'll leave it at that.
Right.
But the fact that Black people and Black community publications are allowing themselves to be used to do this really, really is disappointing. And of course, recently in the news, we've seen the whole thing with Angel Reese, which also made me very disappointed. Not surprised again about how the media treats Black women, especially Black women in sports. As I wrote on one of my social media platforms, I honestly didn't even know that, I don't follow professional sports in that way, and I really don't follow basketball, to be honest with you. So maybe that's why I didn't know, but I was very aware of the Caitlin Clark girl, because she's all they were talking about, right? Everywhere, every time I opened up to read anything about
news that was current.
Sports.
Let me see here. I think this video came. When did she make this video? Oh, this is before the election. It's almost 2 years ago. April 18th. Let's see. Y'all see that? April 18th, 2024. So, yeah, I'm gonna jump into my commentary on this subject now. So, yeah, we got two perspectives. One from and I'm going to add both of those clips to both of those videos in my description, so y'all can go check them out, subscribe, like, comment on all of their content as well. The lady I just shared, I've been following her, subscribed to her maybe about a year and some change. I love her perspective. Seemed to me like, in the workplace, she would be a very pleasant spirit, someone that would calm me when I come to work. I would feel good seeing her. I look forward to seeing her every day. We could have sidebar conversation. She would give me pointers on whatever, issues that I may be having on the job. So reassuring, strong, confident, insightful, intelligent Black woman. Those are the type of Black women that I love to interact with on the job. Right. And I have had a lot of interaction with women like her on the job, but it's the percentage of them that act like what they were talking about. The interaction be so bad. We talking about big loud arguments. It's like it kind of make you feel like they make it just bad for all Black women. I ain't gonna lie. That's just my interpretation. But I do know how to differentiate like what Cool Cola said, the shea butters from the Black. You know what I mean? Like, this is not quite Black. You know what I'm saying? It's off. This is off Black. Like, something not right up there. So, and what Colas was saying, it's not from a Black man's perspective, like, just hearing him talk and his interaction on what he has dealt with in that office setting. And like I said, I've never worked in an office setting. I've always worked in a factory setting, but we have office type people that work in the factory. So we have to deal with the stuff that they dealing with. Like I said, the shit rolling downhill. And I have dealt with every type of Black woman, what that Cool Colas explained. And, I hate to say it, as a Black man, it's just like you looking at somebody you dealing with somebody who has unresolved issues and they're in a position of power. And you seem to be the face of everything that they hate about a Black man. And I'm one of them type of Black men. Even if you don't know me, you're going to notice me. I walk with my head up. I never walk with my head down. I always walk just like this with my head all the way up, like very high, to the point to where you like, yeah, you could just look at my body language and tell that I'm him. Like I'm really him. Not even trying to, like be cocky or arrogant about it. I'm a man made in God's image. I'm God. And that's what I tell any and everybody who I interact with on the job, off the job. I'm not just black. I'm more than black. I'm God. I'm inverted sunlight. I'm shining on you. When you see me, you see God. You see the creation. I'm manifested from God. Meaning I'm not that statistic. I'm not that thing you read about. I'm not none of that. I'm not none of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm something more than that. I'm who God, I have purpose. That's the point I'll be trying to make. I have purpose. I'm not just here for nothing. You know what I'm saying? And while I'm here, either on the job or off the job, it's something that I'm here for. And it's more than what's on the surface. So that's what I'm always trying to share with my coworkers, especially my confused sisters, you know what I'm saying, who have positions of power, you know, because I don't give up on them either. But it's just like what Cool Cola said. Can't interact with them no more. I got a sister right now, and I ain't gonna go all into it, but man, I can't talk to her. I will not interact with her. I will not, because I will lose my job. And that at the core of all of this, that's what's at play. For black men, they're trying to get us to lose our job. I don't know what that is. In German, they got a word called Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude means to be happy that someone else is sad. To be happy that someone else is, you know. I think within our culture, if y'all ever seen that movie 12 Years as a Slave, you got that black woman slave working so hard to undermine all the black men slaves, right? Just so she can go swing on the swing, right? And while she out there swinging, she hear these black men getting whipped. And it kind of make her feel good inside. So that's the kind of vibe that I get, you know, when I'm dealing with women like that, black women like that on the job. Like, it's like they want to get the black man fired so that's going to make her feel better about her life. Everything will be all right if she get this black man fired. You know, her dude that left her daddy that she never knew, you know, all the males in her family that she been having problems with. If she could just get me fired, that would have make up for all of that. That's just how I be interpreting it. You know, I do remember one supervisor, black female supervisor, that I had to literally tell her, you being racist. And she's like, how can I be racist? We both black. And I'm like, look, it's your spirit. And you think I'm a target. And I had to tell her, I'm more than black. I'm more than what you see, sister. And it wasn't until I wore this shirt that had my neighborhood on there. It said Beecher across it. And she saw that shirt and she said, oh, I'm from Beecher. And I said, word. So yeah, she was from my neighborhood, but she was way older than me. So we had never met until the job. But once she found out we was both from the same neighborhood, she tried to get cool with me. But by that time I was like, you know, I'm like, man, you make our neighborhood look bad. You know what I mean? Like, I would never treat nobody like how she was treating me. Fronting on me loud in front of all these racist, crazy white folks, man. I couldn't believe it. I'm just looking at her like, every time she come talk to me, I'm looking at her like she can't be talking to me. Like, you talking to me? You can't be talking to me. So I would just close my eyes and pray for her right in front of her and walk off. But yeah, man, look, I'm about to get out of here. I'll be back. But look, I need y'all, my goal, I don't know if y'all know, which I have said it many times, but I'm trying to get my channel monetized before 10 days. I got 10 days before I go back to my day job. And I'm trying to get my channel monetized. It's going good. We're approaching 400 subscribers, man. I really appreciate everybody tuning in to my channel. Man, I really thank y'all. Thank y'all. And I'm about to start profiling some of the comments on my community section, you know, the picture section of YouTube, and just shouting y'all out, man. So look, y'all leave comments. I'm about to start shouting y'all out real soon. And yeah, I'll be back with more content, man. I appreciate y'all. And look, y'all hold it down, man. I'm out. Yo, it's Marlon Speaks Live. Yeah, I'm saying what they hide. History uncensored, let the real survive. Yeah, it's truth over comfort, I don't pick no side. If it shake the room a little, let the truth collide. Cause it's Marlon Speaks Live. No script, no disguise. I don't sell no lies, just to monetize. Cause the past still breathing and it never dies. Yeah, it's Marlon Speaks Live. Now the truth will rise. Yo, it's Marlon Speaks Live.